the general topic that I want to talk about today um, is for when you have a listing, how to earn a price adjustment. Okay. Um, and price adjustments, price reductions are not given by a seller. They have to be earned by you, the listing agent. Okay. And we're going to talk about how to go about doing that. And there's a good chance that we're going to focus on a couple of different areas. And this may end up being a two-part conversation. But before I do so, I want to expound on a couple of things. Okay. If you participated in Mike's practice session this morning, you heard him talk a little bit about when you're in showing a property or whether you have a listing. Um, there is absolutely no expectation of privacy, okay, for either you or for your client. And a part of every conversation that you should be having with a buyer when you start showing them properties is a conversation, a very direct and very blunt conversation about when we are in somebody else's home showing property, whether it's vacant, whether it's occupied, there is no expectation of privacy. There, you need to anticipate and expect and just assume that you are being watched, you are being listened to, and you are being recorded when you are in that home. Are we clear? That and you need to have very direct conversations with your buyer clients and say, look, I don't want you to say anything positive. I don't want to say anything negative. If you say anything negative, people will dislike you, and that could hurt your chances of competing in a bidding war. If you say something positive, if they have your buyer on camera with the wife going, "This is it, Joe. This is the one. This is it. I'll pay anything for it." You have just stolen my ability to negotiate a great deal on your behalf. Okay, I'll give you an individual testimonial. I always have this conversation. If we start talking about price, I will tell them, hold off. Let's go outside. Let's go talk about it. And not even in the driveway. Go around the corner. Because Ring doorbell cameras, even if they don't have anything inside the house, they have Ring doorbells. Okay. I actually won a bidding war on a house that my clients were interested in. The listing agent told me, you guys were pretty close to the best deal, but the listing agent that presented the best offer was stupid enough to stand on the front porch within earshot of the Ring doorbell and have a conversation with, well, we'll offer them whatever it takes to win the bidding war, and then we'll hit them heavy during the amendment to address concerns. Okay, that agent and their inability to keep those kind of conversations private shot them in the foot. So don't do it, y'all. Be conscious, be aware, whether it's inside the house or outside the house. All right. Any questions on that? Anybody have any individual experience with being monitored or anything along those lines?
Hey, Jay.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing crazy, just a question.
Yeah.
Is just basic talking things like, if they're going through and they're like, oh, I like this aspect, like not, excited or anything, but just normal
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. If it starts turning to numbers or showing excessive enthusiasm for this particular property, that's when I would encourage them to cool your jets a little bit. Don't get too excited, and let's step outside to finish the conversation. Okay. steps outside away from the front door. And y'all, those Ring cameras, they have an extended reach. So don't stand in the driveway in front of the garage when the front door is just right there. Go into the cul-de-sac, go down the street, whatever. Go sit in your car to have the conversation. All right. But, yes, them saying, "Hey, I really like the kitchen. This is laid out really well," or they've done some great updates in that master bathroom. That's the kind of thing that you can't squelch, and you don't necessarily want to. But if it goes past that certain point where it's like, you know, this is it, I'll pay anything, then you definitely want to have that conversation. Okay. All right. Anybody got any questions before we get rolling? Okay. So here is topics for today. I want to talk to you. Unfortunately, I was putting slides together this morning, and they're not ready because I had to divert and teach the practice for Mike. So I don't have any slides prepared, but I will. We're going to walk through this, and we're gonna wing it. So I wanted to talk to you today about when you have a listing. We as agents, our job in the equation of pricing a house is to do two things. It is to get your client the best possible deal on the sale of their home. Okay. And it is secondarily in your best interest to get them to price the home appropriate to the market conditions so that you get it sold as quickly as possible and you have the highest probability of getting it to the closing table. Okay. Those two things can be inversely proportionate to you. So getting the best possible deal, let's just say we have a home that's market value is 300,000. Doing the best thing by our client is listing it for 350,000. Or let's just get excessive, 400,000. Okay, that's getting your client the best possible deal. However, what happens when you overprice a house? Nothing. Well said. When you overprice a house, nothing happens. All right. So crickets will be chirping. The market will respond appropriately with those crickets and nothing happening. Okay. And that is what you want to avoid. So our goal as a real estate agent is to use the tools, the resources, the experience, and the training that we have to be able to help our client predict how the market is likely to react to the sale of their home and the price that we have put on the home. Okay. You've heard me say this before. There are three things that sell a house. What are they? Oh, you haven't heard me say it enough. You're muted, Julia. Go ahead.
You have location and price.
And condition.
Okay.
Okay. Location, price, condition. All right. So let's talk about these a little bit. Location. Can you change a home's location to make it more marketable? Nope. All right. Condition. If a home is in, let's just say, average condition, is spending a buttload of money to make it perfect, to have every single nail hole on every wall, is that going to have a significant effect on the price of the home or the marketability of the home? Realistically, not. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to every rule. If the home is, a hoarder house, obviously there are elements of condition that can change. Okay. And so your script with a client that wants to make their home perfect and paint it the color that they've always wanted, your reaction should be, that may not get you, the return on the investment that you think it is, because what perfect paint color that you wanted to paint this house for the last 10 years you lived in it may not be what a buyer wants. Okay. So condition is important, but it's not the paramount thing. Okay. And so the third item on the list, location, condition, price, what is the easiest of those three to change?
Price.
The price. Yeah. So the price is the easiest to change, and it's the easiest to control when you are the listing agent. So getting a price reduction doesn't start after the home has been on the market for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 60 days, whatever. It starts at the listing appointment. All right. So I always have a conversation after I have presented my comps, after I have presented my recommendation for what the listing price is. I have a very frank and honest conversation and say, look, here's the deal. This is a good recommendation. This is my recommendation based off of my experience, my skills, the resources, and the data that I have shown you. However, I'm a human being and I'm trying to do two things at the same time. I'm trying to get you the best possible deal and at the same time have the highest probability of getting us to the closing table. And those two things are inversely proportionate. So I want to get you the best possible deal. I have a vested interest in getting you the maximum price for your home. Because hey, let's just face it, the higher we sell your home for, the higher my commission is too. Okay. So I have that vested interest. However, I'm human, and the market can be fickle, and sometimes we cannot predict what the market is going to do. Okay, so here are the metrics that I'm going to be looking for, and that we are going to be evaluating when we put your home on the market. Okay, we ultimately want to see 3 to 5 showings per week. And for every 10 to 15 showings, we should be receiving an offer. Okay. If we have priced your home appropriately, according to the market conditions, we should be meeting those metrics. I hope you guys are writing these down because this is critical. Okay. So again, for when we put the home on the market, we want to see 3 to 5 showings per week, and for every 10 to 15 showings, we want to see an offer. If we are not meeting those metrics, say for example, inevitably in that first week, you're going to see a lot of traffic. It usually starts here and trickles off. Okay, but overall, 3-5 weeks later, if you don't have an average of 3 to 5 showings per week, then the market is reacting to the price. Okay. If we have 30 showings and we have not seen a single offer, what that tells us is the home is in an area that is in high demand, but everybody that's coming through it is looking at it going, this ain't worth what they got it priced for. And they're not even going to try. Okay. So now you've had that conversation and you're setting that expectation. Weeks later, when you go back to them and say, all right, here's the data that compares to those metrics. And we want to see how that goes. And then we want to have that conversation. All right. So, and the second part of that, delivering that in the listing appointment, 3 to 5, and for every 10 to 15, we get an offer, is if we do not see the market responding at that price, then I want to gauge you, Mr. Seller, your willingness to respond to what the market conditions are and make adjustments to that. Okay, if you've got a client that is absolutely saying, no, that's the number, I would have serious reservations about that. Okay, and I would say, I'm not going to ask you to trust me. I'm going to show you with cold, hard, objective data how the market is responding, and it's not going to be, trust me, I'm the expert here, you need to do this. It's going to be, let me show you through the numbers. All right. So then that begs the question, how do you get the numbers? Right. So Now let's talk, and this is where it's going to shift to a little bit of tech and IT and systems support. All right. How many of you leave feedback when you do a showing? Love it. Thank you. Consistently, 100% of the time? Good. Practice practice the golden rule. When you have a listing, you are going to want that feedback. All right. So unfortunately, the rest of the universe of real estate agents in Metro Atlanta don't subscribe to the same school of thought, because I probably saw about 75% of you. On average, I think the average is probably about 40% of people that organically will automatically fill out the showing time requests for feedback. Okay. So that becomes incumbent upon you as a listing agent to actively solicit that feedback. And let me show you exactly how to do that. All right, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to come over here. Okay, y'all looking at Matrix?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Matrix, everybody understands you've got your external links over here. One of those is showing time. And you see, you click it there. I've got it open here. That's going to bring you to your main page of FMLS or of showing time linked in here. Okay. And if you haven't played around in here, strongly encourage you to do so. This gives you a lot of good information. But where we are going to focus in on is your listing setup. When you initially put a listing live, you should be going in here and you should be setting this up. Yours is going to look a little different than this. I have broker access, so I'm seeing everybody's stuff, but just for grins and giggles, we're going to use my most recent activity on some of my properties to kind of show how this works. All right. So here you see I have this is actually a property that's sold. This should drop off any day now. But you see the two MLSs that I have set up through showing time, First MLS and Georgia MLS, both of these for the same property. So we're going to go in and look at my FMLS setup for showing time. And this you may be familiar with, where you can go ahead and change your settings for your client, all of this good information. But there's these little tabs over here to the side, and you have something called a listing activity report. This is your friend, and this is the data in which you can present to your client to show them, okay, remember what we talked about, 3 to 5 showings per week, and for every 10 showings, we should be getting an offer. Here you can see that we've had a total of 22 showings on this particular property, 22 of them, all of them within the last 30 days. And we see in the particular week. Now, this is not a good example because we went under contract almost immediately, but typically you would see weeks of activity that kind of trickle down, and you can see exactly how many. Does anybody here have a listing that you're struggling with that you want to look at? Just curious. You want to be vulnerable, Trevon? All right. What's your property?
3329 Cascade Park Boulevard. Park with a C.
Is this it? I got it.
Yep.
Okay. So here you see a total of 19 showings. You've had 6 on the first week, 11 on the second week, and you're down to 2 this week. Okay. So, what is that? 3 weeks? How long has this been on the market? When did it go on? From November 30th through December 13th. So it's only been on less than right at 2 weeks. But you got 3 weeks worth of data here. Let's look at the feedback. Is your client interested in this property? You've only had 2 responses. and your client's opinion of the price, you've had two people that have said it is just right. Okay. So you've had a total of 19 showings and only 2 responses. So that's what, a 10% return rate? Pretty low. All right. So in order to make this meaningful, I would strongly encourage you as the listing agent to be a more active solicitor of the feedback on this. So here's a good practice. A lot of people may have given you feedback. Maybe they gave you verbal, maybe you followed up via text, maybe something like that. And that's all well and good. But unless you've got it recorded in a way that is presentable to your client, you lose credibility in having that argument. So I utilize, and I strongly encourage everybody to utilize the system that is already in place, that is already working on your behalf to be able to solicit this feedback. So say, for example, what was, you've got a future showing today, you had one yesterday from Dana at Caldwell Banker, all right? You can easily come here and solicit that feedback from Dana. Or say Dana texted you her results, but you want to record them in a way that is accurate and is presentable to your client. Does everybody see this little column over here for the feedback where you can manage? So let's say, for example, Trevon talked to Dana and he comes over here and Dana said, my client really liked the property. So, and then you can go, yeah, he can fill this out as he's talking to Dana. And what did they think? Their experience was a good one. What's their opinion of the price? Did they say it was too high, too low? You can fill this out as you're talking to that listing agent, or if they provided you written via email or text, you can fill this out and save it. And guess what? It now becomes a filled in feedback form, and it will look just like these up here. Okay. If you want to be real transparent with your client, as I've done these in the past, where when I fill this out and they have something very specific to say about the property, hated the neighborhood, something along those lines. If I want to be 100% transparent, I would put my initials at the end of this little comment to signify that it was me that was recording this information. So that does 2 things for you. It tells your client that you are actively soliciting feedback on their property, that you're not just sitting back, you put it on the MLS and you're waiting for the offers to roll in. You're actually doing your job. You're actually working on their behalf of soliciting this feedback. Okay. But yet it still accomplishes the goal of putting everything into one place. All right. When you do that feedback, you can also, when you see this feedback and you see it recorded up here, I'm a big fan of publishing this feedback directly to your client. And you can do so simply by hitting this button, assuming that they have been set up on your notifications. Do you know if they were, Trevon? Are they the ones getting the showing time notifications?
No, they're not set up on this. They didn't want to be.
Okay. So here's here's one school of thought. They don't want to be set up because they don't want to approve I assume the house is vacant. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's vacant. Yeah, they didn't want to be approving showings or see a whole bunch of stuff coming in and be distracted. They're both lawyers, so they're in court all day.
Man, that's fine. So what I would do in that situation, me personally, I would say, you know what, I hear you. I will set it up to where it is not, it doesn't require you to input to it, but I do want you to see how many people are showing your house, and I want you to be able to see the feedback that they are providing. So I would put them in here and add them as an owner occupant, but just not set them up on the approvals. And there's an that's easily set up. And then you can indeed show them the feedback and publish this to them once they have it. Okay, but even if they don't, you can also just come up here and periodically, once a week, you can download a PDF of this report and use this as kind of like your weekly check-in. Does that make sense? It's downloading, so now we can produce a nice professional report that shows them the data of who has seen their house, how many showings they've had, and what the feedback has been so far. Okay. Any questions on this so far? Did anybody not know that this existed? Now you do. All right. This is also one where, so again, I want to collect as much information and data as possible. So on occasion, you will have, especially with a vacant home, you'll have an agent that will not go through the showing time process to approve, to get an appointment. They might do a drive-by because they're in the neighborhood and they come up to the door and they look in the window and see that it is vacant, and they might go in the home without a scheduled appointment, which means they're not going to show up here on showing time. However, see this little add activity? You can add that showing in there. So you get the notification from Supra that they went into the house. You can add that agent in here, which is kind of a sneaky way of saying, haha, I see what you did. And then you can actively solicit their feedback after you've added them in. Okay. So this report that you will be able to access at any time, this is your data and this is your argument to your client of how the market is reacting to your to their listing and to the price of the listing. Okay. So if you are a listing agent, you need to be actively working this and collecting this information and this data. Let's go back, trying to see if I can show you anything else with regards to this listing activity report. Oh, so here's what I would do. Another strong recommendation is the generic feedback questions that everybody uses in showing time. I think they're horrible. They're terrible. And if anybody is interested, there are some other ones that this is a template that I've been using for years, and it goes a little bit beyond the simple, where do you rank and what do you think? So I did different questions. Did your buyers like this property? How do you rate the overall exterior? How do you rate the interior? Look, style, and overall cleanliness. Is a second showing a likely possibility? And is the buyer consider submitting an offer? Okay. Ironically enough, the 3 people that did leave feedback on this particular property, well, there's 4 people. 3 of them were all negative. And in this case, I chose, by the time these feedbacks came in, we were already under contract. That's why you see I didn't publish them to the seller. But I would have in other words. Go ahead, Julia.
Hey, can you scroll down a little bit? We're trying to get a picture of this.
Oh, of the questions?
Yes.
I will be happy to show you how to do this, and I can share you my feedback questions too. Form design and setting.
Country flipped over. Sorry.
Yeah. So here's the form, and this is how you create your own and set it as a template. I tell you what, when this gets published on Workplace,
Okay.
I'll post a copy of it down below.
Oh, and will these same questions come up for every house, or do you have to put these in for every single house?
What you do is when you go here and you set them up within showing time, listing setup. It is one of the options. I'm trying to remember where it's at. Oh, right here, template. When you do, is the listing agent accompanying the showing? Feedback template. You can create your own template. I created mine and called it Jay's template. And once you create it once, then that you can set that as your default, and then it'll always be there for you. Okay. So we ran out of time. We're going to continue the conversation on Thursday about how to get your client. This was only one aspect of how to get your client to adjust the price, to be able to earn that price adjustment. And then we're going to continue that conversation on Thursday, okay, at 10 o'clock. And thank you guys for adjusting to the new time frame. We're going to do this at 10 o'clock on Mondays and Thursdays from now on. Any questions?
Thank you.
Welcome. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.